Before we get into today's video, I did want to let you guys know that this video is for educational purposes only. Please remember to be kind to everybody everywhere in your everyday life, in your home, in the grocery store, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance in hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. I hope you all have had a wonderful week. I hope everybody is feeling good and doing great. So in today's video, you guys, I got this request through my request cases email. And when I looked into this case, I was like, just so many similarities with things we've talked about before, or it just kind of pulls on your mommy heartstrings, or like you see all these signs and it's, you know how when you watch a movie and you just want to yell, no, stop. That's what this case makes me feel like as I was researching this. You know what it also reminds me of? Do y'all remember the videos of the interrogation room when Shayna Hubers was in that room alone? Yeah, we're going to see some videos like that today in this case. So what I'm going to do is, like I typically do, I'm going to tell you guys the whole entire story from the best of my ability. And then at the end, I will give you guys my opinion. We'll talk about what we can learn from this and just kind of dissect some things because there's going to be a lot to talk about. So let's just start at the beginning. Dawson McGehee was born on October 30th in 1985 in Manteca, California, to his parents Thomas and Kathleen. Thomas and Kathleen started dating when they were in college, but would fall in love quickly and quickly get married. They moved to Chicago where they had their first two children, two little boys, and they tried to settle in there. Now in Chicago, Kathleen, the mother with her two little boys, was a stay-at-home mom, and Thomas, the father, was actually in missionary work, so he would be traveling to other countries and he would be gone 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time out of the country. And it was just Kathleen with her two children, and they knew that they wanted to have more. However, Chicago's prices were just too expensive for them. So after Kathleen and Thomas talked about it, they decided that they were going to move back to California, buy a home there in the town that they were from. That way Kathleen could at least settle down, raise their children while Thomas was traveling. And that's exactly what they did. The two of them packed their two children up from Chicago, moved back to Manteca, California, and they purchased a home. This is when the two would go on to have two more children. Dawson, a little boy, and Caitlin, a little girl. Before we go any further, I did want to stop and thank today's sponsor, Factor. This spring, you need nutritious, convenient meals to energize you for warmer, active days and keep you on track reaching your goals. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and tackle everything on your to-do list. And if you're anything like me and you need to cut back on your takeout orders or going out to eat so much, Factor has got you covered. Not only is Factor cheaper than takeout meals, but you will have your delicious and nutritious lunch or dinner prepared for you in just 2 minutes. I always look forward to eating my Factor meals. You guys, these are so flavorful and so delicious, and they have so many different types of foods to help you meet whatever goals that you have. They have highly nutritious, high protein meals. They have keto if you eat keto. They have calorie smart. They have veggie friendly. And truly, whoever the chefs are at Factor's, they know what they're doing because these meals pack a delicious punch. If you want to try Factor, all you got to do is go to factor75.com and use code ChristinaRandall50 and you can save 50% off of your first Factor box today. Yes, just go to factor75.com and use my code ChristinaRandall50 and you can save 50% off of your first Factor box today. Thanks again, Factor. Kathleen was described by her children and people that knew her as an amazing mother. She was a homeschooling mama, so she was homeschooling 4 different children in 4 different grades at 4 different ages, as well as doing all the cooking, the cleaning, being involved in the church, keeping her kids in extracurricular activities, and just being a loved woman. I mean, people that knew her said that she would do anything for anybody, including like giving the shirt off of her own back. So everything seemed fine. However, Kathleen would say that when dealing with Dawson, her 3rd child, he was the more difficult child. He could not concentrate. He was always squirming. And she did go and have him diagnosed with ADHD. And this is when she kind of struggled with medication for him. And I think a lot of moms out there know what that's like, right? You're struggling with, is this medication going to benefit my child, or am I just making my kid a zombie, or this or that? And you go back and forth. And I think that they had some issues with that, and they had Dawson on the medication, off the medication, back on the medication, trying to help him. All the while, her other 3 children would say that Dawson was very manipulative, that he was a very manipulative child. He would do things to get attention from people, whether it was acting out or being sweet. And I heard an interview where one of his older brothers said that Dawson could turn on and off the sweetness like a switch. Like he could manipulate his mother and other people. He could be super, super sweet, and then he could be super angry. And Dawson did not care the attention that he got, whether it was good attention or bad attention, just as long as he was getting attention. Now, Kathleen, being his mother, was very defensive and protective of Dawson. She was constantly defending him to his siblings and to his father and other people around. And I just, it's just that mommy in you, right? Like, no, he's got issues, and, just taking up for him. But Kathleen decided that maybe the best thing for Dawson would be for him to go to public school so he could be busy during the day, basically give the other kids a break during the day because his actions were affecting everybody in the house. And surprisingly, Dawson did thrive in public school. He would even go on to graduate high school. Now, I heard one of Dawson's brothers say that Dawson would become obsessed with different things, and he became obsessed with music. So it seemed perfect for him to go to college and study music in college, and that's exactly what he did. He ended up earning a degree and graduating in 2009. From there, he ended up getting a job at an elementary school teaching music, but the job didn't last long. Dawson ended up quitting his job and saying that he was depressed and just wanting to live at home with his mother and his parents. Now, it is rumored that Kathleen, the mom, was excited about this. I mean, her other 3 children had already moved out of the house. Her husband was gone most of the time, and now she could give Dawson all the attention that he always wanted. However, his father, Thomas, was not happy about it. He thought that Dawson was taking advantage of his mother, and that Dawson was not appreciative of what his mother did for him. He just expected her to take care of things and his every little need. One of his brothers would go on to say that Dawson would not clean up after himself. He wouldn't do his own laundry. He wouldn't cook his own food. He's basically living at home with his mom and bossing her around, to the point that it was even making his mom feel uncomfortable in her own home. Now, after a while of this, of Dawson living at his mother's home and having this type of situationship going on there, this is when Dawson just completely shut himself off from everybody and stayed in his room all the time, doing just whatever he was doing. He went on to tell his mother that he was suffering from severe anxiety and was having hallucinations and seeing things. Now, Dawson's siblings believed that he was lying and manipulating his mother. One of his brothers said in an interview that he would watch Dawson act a certain way in front of his mom and, oh, I've got anxiety, But then as soon as he went into another room, he was completely normal. And so they didn't believe him, but Kathleen, being the mother, she wants to help her kid. So Kathleen made him an appointment and took him to see a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist supposedly diagnosed Dawson with a psychiatric disorder. It's still unclear which one specifically, but he was put on medication and told to keep a journal. Now, allegedly, Dawson began to smoke green, hoping that it was going to help him calm him down, but it made things worse. His family would say that this is when Dawson switched one obsession to the next. he obsessively started watching scary movies. He became so obsessed with these scary movies, he wanted to start dressing like them. So he would wear these Michael Myers masks and these Jason masks. Can you imagine? You've got your adult child who will not even change the trash in the bathroom, dressing up as these characters, obsessively watching these movies, saying that they're having psychotic episodes. The siblings are saying they're faking it. Like, this is a mess. Like, we need some help. I don't know. I would have been hitting the red button at this point if he was wearing these masks in my house. This is when Kathleen decided to go peek into Dawson's journal. When she looked in Dawson's journal, the things that she's seen him writing was very disturbing. He was drawing pictures of like demons and just like creepy stuff that, you know, he's supposed to be expressing himself with, and the things that he was expressing himself of was not good. It was scary. One night, Dawson would even like leave his house in the middle of the night running. He arrived at a friend's house and told his friends that a demon was chasing him. And then it gets even stranger. Dawson starts to develop these symptoms of Parkinson's disease after he was around his uncle who had Parkinson's disease. His siblings would go on to say that Dawson, when he was in front of the family or his mother, other people, he would, you know, have different symptoms of Parkinson's disease, but as soon as he would go into the other room, when nobody was watching, they'd instantly go away. This is when the siblings were trying to tell their mom, he is manipulating you, Mom. He is faking this. Like, this is weird. I don't know if they thought it was scary, but I'd have been thinking, okay, something is really wrong. When you start, you know, pretending to have something like this or serious or running to a friend's house in the middle of the night saying demons are chasing you and you're acting completely normal on and off, like this is something that really needs to be checked out by a professional. However, Kathleen believed, no. My son, these are real. This is real. He wouldn't fake this. Like, I need to be here for him. But Kathleen wasn't just sitting around, like, just taking care of her son. She was busy too. Kathleen had actually got involved in her church. She was doing like volunteer work and stuff. And she was working with young women who had been through different DV situations. And she would answer calls in the middle of the night. And she was taking them clothes and just really giving of herself to these young women. And she wanted to be even better at what she was doing and be an even bigger help to these victims. So she started taking courses on DV victims. Now, when she started to take these courses is when her eyes began to be opened on what Dawson was doing. This is when she realized, wait a minute. I actually may be being manipulated by my own son. And I can't imagine, that had to be a horrible feeling for her as a mother, because you're not talking about realizing this when your kid is 6 or 7. You're talking about your child being in their 20s, living with you, just you and them, and the things that he's doing. It had to be like, holy cow to her. Because she was realizing this, Kathleen started acting differently towards Dawson. She realized, I'm not going to pick his dirty drawers up off the floor, make his food for him, get his fork out of his bed that he's laid in there for 3.5 days and let him talk to me any kind of way because he's got problems. He's manipulating me. So she decided to change her course of action with her son. As Kathleen started to become more tough on Dawson and requiring him to be more independent and more responsible for his own actions, this is when Dawson became mad. He went from just manipulating his mother to anger. Dawson would get into arguments with Kathleen all the time and push her around. And I can just imagine too, now you've got this adult child, you have been letting him do this all this time. And I don't say that in a judgmental way towards her, because I truly believe that Kathleen at this point didn't see the red flags. When she saw them and her eyes were open, she tried to make a change, but it looks like it might have been too late at this point. So she reached out to her husband, Thomas, in desperate need of like guidance and help with him, because again, she's at home alone with her son now. Dawson's father, Thomas, came home and they decided that they were going to, together, the two parents, confront Dawson, lay down the rules of their home. And when they did, y'all, it was a big argument, a blowout, yelling. Dawson yells at his parents and tells them that they are running their home like a dictatorship and they cannot tell him what he's got to do. So get this, you guys. Thomas, the father, calls the police to come there and have a talk with their son. I just can't imagine having to call the cops to your adult child who you're paying everything for, doing everything for, so you can ask the cops to tell him to pick up after himself. This is where they're at this point. So the cops get there and they have the conversation with Thomas, and Thomas says, listen, I need you to tell my son that he's got to follow our rules, do his chores, pick up after himself, or we're going to kick him out. The cops go to talk to Dawson, and Dawson pleads with the police and says that he could not be kicked out of his parents' house. However, the police sided with the parents, and this infuriated Dawson even more. So now he's building this extreme resentment towards his parents, but he's really going to take it out on his mama because his father's getting ready to leave town again. Around this time, Kathleen's daughter, their youngest child, Caitlin, decided to move back home. She was about to get married, and she wanted to be at home with her mom while she was preparing for the wedding. Now, Kathleen, y'all know how Kathleen is already at this point. She was in hog heaven. I mean, she had her baby girl there. They're doing wedding stuff. They're planning a bridal shower. She's so excited. They're doing hair. They're talking about food. And Dawson is getting madder and madder. Caitlin would even go on to say that around this point, and this is around October of 2011, that Dawson was always in a bad mood. She basically had to avoid him. He was always grumpy, angry, resentful, and he basically just refused to speak to his sister at all. Like, they would pass each other in the hallway. She would try to speak to Dawson. He wouldn't even speak to her. And that brings us to the day before Halloween of 2011. Thomas, Dawson's father, left and was away for work. And Caitlin, his little sister, went on some sort of like Christian retreat, and she was all involved in that, so she was away. So at this point, it was only Dawson and his mother at home alone. Kathleen went to church with her oldest son and was supposed to pick up Caitlin from the retreat that evening. Then at around 4 p.m., she spoke to her other son, Colin, on the phone. This would be the last conversation that Kathleen would ever have. After she finished cooking dinner that evening, she went upstairs to get ready to pick up her daughter Caitlin. However, when she tried to leave her bedroom, she saw a man dressed in a Halloween mask in her doorway holding a kitchen knife. It was Dawson. Dawson attacked his mother, striking her a total of 10 times in her neck, chest, and abdomen area. An autopsy would later show that 8 of the 10 stabs were fatal. 8 of them. That means 1 of the 8 would have ended her life right then and there. I mean, this was horrific. At around 5 p.m., Caitlin was still there waiting for her mother to come and pick her up, and of course her mother never showed. She was blowing her mom's phone up, calling her over and over and over again, and she was not answering. Kathleen allegedly had like some diabetic issues, so she would get like these blood sugar fluctuations, and sometimes she would need to lay down and take a nap. So even though this was unusual for Kathleen to not be there to pick up her daughter, Caitlin's mind didn't go straight to a dark place. Well, because Kathleen's phone kept ringing over and over again, I guess Dawson seen or heard her phone ringing, and Dawson called Caitlin from his phone. He called her and said, "Hey, Caitlin, how are you doing?" Now, this shocked Caitlin, okay? Because remember, not only did he not talk to her, was walking past her, being a butthead basically in the house and being rude and grouchy to her, but he never, ever just called somebody and said, "How are you doing?" He was never interested in like how other people were actually doing. It was always what Dawson was doing, and he was always in his own little world. And so this struck her by surprise. Caitlin, of course, would go on to ask Dawson, "Hey, where's mom at?" I'm trying to get a hold of her. And he said he had no idea where she was at. And so they ended up getting off the phone. And this is when Caitlin called her mom back and left her 3 voicemails. After the 3 voicemails, Dawson called his sister back and said, "Hey, I talked to our mom earlier and she asked me to pick you up from the retreat because she's not feeling well." Again, this was odd for her, but you know, she's coming back from this like Christian, love Jesus, love everybody retreat, and maybe she's thinking like her prayers have been answered. I mean, it's strange, but like, what is she gonna do? Like, this is my brother. Okay, great. Thank you for coming to get me. Now, Caitlin said when Dawson picked up, he was in an unusually good mood. He was like all happy and jumping around and talkative, just not the Dawson that she knew. But again, she's not thinking anything. She's thinking nice. This is different, but awesome. Dawson asked Caitlin if she would ride with him while he went to go do some errands. And again, being strange, but she said sure. So she rode with him. She said that Dawson was acting weird, like he acted like he got lost a couple times. He was driving all over the place. But then he eventually took her back to the house. And this is when Caitlin said that she wanted to go and check on their mom. But Dawson said, listen, she's not been feeling good. She's already in bed, because by the time they got to the house, it was 11 p.m. She's in bed. She's resting. She does not feel good. Don't disturb her. Caitlin believed her brother and just decided to go to bed. The next morning, which was Halloween morning, when Caitlin woke up, she wanted to see her mom. Dawson told her again, do not bother mom. She's not feeling well and she wants to stay in bed. Then he tells her he has more errands to run and asked her if she wanted to come. Not knowing what to do and definitely not wanting to ruin this like awesome moment with her brother that she doesn't have often, she said yeah, and she rode with him. After the two went all over the place doing all kind of random errands, this is when they get back home and Caitlin wanted to see and check on her mother. This time, Dawson didn't stop her. When she went up to her room, she knocked on the door, she tried to jiggle the handle, and the door was locked. She could not get into her room. She got super worried knowing that her mom is diabetic, and she ended up calling her brother. When she called her brother said, call 911 immediately. I'm on my way there. So she calls 911.
911. Hi, my mother has been in her room with the door locked. She's not responding when I knock on the door, and she's diabetic and prone to sleep apnea. I'm just worried something's wrong with her. Okay.
When the police got there, they busted into the room, and this is when they found Kathleen lying on the floor dead. They said that when they found her body, she had her car keys clutched in her hands. You guys, she was going to pick up her daughter. She still had her keys clutched in her hands. That is so, ugh. They asked Caitlin who was the last person to see or speak to Kathleen, and this is when it finally clicked for Caitlin. Dawson. When the police went looking for Dawson, he was nowhere to be found. They eventually found him in the middle of the night when he was pulled over and taken into custody. Investigators brought Dawson and put him into an interview room so they could watch him and question him about what happened to his mother. Dawson didn't realize he was being recorded. When a detective would come into the room to speak to him, he would do the shaking Parkinson's thing. He would stutter. He would look around. He would, just have this act on, but then when they would leave, he would go back to being normal. And I'm going to show you guys this video. But when y'all see this video, I want y'all to think about what the siblings was telling Kathleen years ago. But this is caught right on video, what the siblings had been saying this whole time. Watch this.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you? Okay. I'm Detective Miller. This is Detective Armacino. We've got some stuff we want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about what happened to your mom.
What happened to my mom?
Well, you tell me.
People called me and said something happened at home.
Okay. Well, so, was your sister home this weekend?
Wait, I'm supposed to have an attorney?
If you want one.
Am I supposed to have I should request an attorney.
Well, that's up to you if you like one.
You're supposed to have an attorney. Go on, I would offer. I want to ask for an attorney.
You want to ask for an attorney?
Yeah.
Okay. Then at this point, I'm done talking to you. I can't talk to you anymore about the case because you told me that you want an attorney here.
Oh, okay.
All right. If you change your mind about that and you decide you want to talk to me, you need to, let me know or let one of the officers here know. Okay?
Oh, okay.
All right. I'm going to be right back.
Now, it has been speculated that Dawson was faking those symptoms in order to get an insanity plea. Dawson was charged with first-degree murder, and he pled not guilty by reason of insanity and went to trial. During this trial, his defense team said Dawson didn't know that he was attacking his mother. He thought it was a demon. The prosecution said his actions after the murder show that he knew exactly what he was doing. The jury found him legally sane and would go on to find him guilty of second-degree murder. They chose second degree because they did not believe it was premeditated. He was sentenced to 16 years to life in prison and will be eligible for parole in 2028. Dawson's father would go on to say that all she ever did was give. All he would only and always do was take. He would take and manipulate, take and deceive, take and lie, take and fake, take and take. He was a predator and his mother was his prey. Dawson's older brother, Justin, would go on to say that, so far there has been no remorse at all, only arrogance. There has been no honesty, only lies. I hold him to be similar in character to the devil himself than any other human being I have known, and yet I refuse to hate him. I refuse to allow someone as morally perverse as he is to force me to live a life of bitterness and ruin the joy I have in loving others. The judge even went on to give a statement after sentencing, which 16 years was an extremely light sentence. I mean, come on here. But the judge would even go on to say that how horrific this was and that he was even affected by it. And you know, these judges, they see these types of things all the time. And this bothered me too, right? Because as a mother, and some of you guys maybe have siblings that are troubled, or maybe you've been the troubled one. And if you are, maybe you can watch this and go like, dang, maybe my mom or my dad or my grandma or whoever it is, they just keep giving and giving of themselves to me. And I know me as a mother, like that's what we want to do, right? We want to do everything we can to help our kids. And Kathleen, it's just so sad. So sad. And by the time she realized that her son, wait a minute, he's not, he's doing this on purpose. Like he's going back and forth. Now, I do believe, don't get me wrong, I believe, my personal unprofessional opinion, I do believe Dawson had mental issues. I mean, who don't in this world, right? I do believe he had issues. But the fact that he tried to cover things up, he tried to distract, he lied, he did the things that he did shows me that he knows right from wrong. And we've talked about that in these cases before. Listen, having a mental issue does not give you reason of insanity in order to get away with hurting somebody. You took a life, you're going to have these consequences, hopefully, if justice is served. The issue is, did you know right from wrong? And you see people, if they're trying to cover things up, they're trying to hide things, then they know that what they did was wrong. And then you think about the 3 kids who loved their mom, did right by their mom, and was trying to help her see the light too. And when she finally seen the light, this happened. Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible, terrible, terrible. I always think one of the worst ways to go has got to be looking up at your child, the person that you've done everything for, the person that you've given of yourself for. You changed their diapers, you felt them in your tummy, you watched them grow up. What do you guys think? I think he got a really light sentence. That's what I think. And I wonder where he's going to go when he gets out. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Other than that, y'all have a wonderful weekend. Love each other. Please be kind to each other. And I'll see you guys next week. Love you guys. Bye.